Make sure I'm understanding this correctly. The mainstream media, the proud defenders of the unprofitable business of women's basketball. The mainstream media, who has spent years trying to convince us that women's basketball is must-see TV, instead of what it actually is, which is get off my TV. You mean to tell me the media is publicly admitting that Unrivaled is struggling?
The mainstream media passionately defended a league that many believed couldn't continue for years, claiming to be the courageous guardian of women's basketball. The same media is now speaking out against its own quiet. There are no gentle landings or spin, only direct acknowledgments that Unrivaled is having severe difficulties. In real time, on the record and in public, the story is breaking. What was altered? Why are the loudest cheerleaders raising the alarm all of a sudden? What does this subtle turnabout tell us about the politics, the business, and the reality they have been avoiding for years?
Earlier today, this morning in fact, I dropped a video about Unrivaled ratings being straight trash. I mean complete dog shiznit, right? And they are. They've fallen off a cliff. Now, something I did not mention, the ratings have went down versus last year, despite there being a new television rating system that has, as we've seen, artificially inflated numbers versus previous years, and the numbers are still way down.
There is no need for suspense or dramatic framing at this moment. It is merely a numerical issue. Low attendance has been the norm. The number of viewers has fallen short of expectations. And the disparity between online hype and real-world support is impossible to ignore. The stadiums conveyed a totally different message than social media, which portrayed Unrivaled as a cultural phenomenon.
This isn't the woke media that I know to be completely useless. This isn't the media that has a long history of polishing the turd. This is unprecedented. The media is actually telling us the truth. Last year, they were trying to convince us that Unrivaled was taking over the world. Have you seen these ratings? I haven't seen ratings this high since...
This is the same media environment that has persistently attempted to persuade viewers that women's basketball is essential television, despite the fact that for the majority of viewers, it has served as background noise at best and a channeling moment at worst.
Year ratings on TNT were lackluster. Unrivaled's opening slate on January the 5th, which kicked off with a Monday afternoon game, averaged 175k viewers the first two games to air on both TNT and True TV. So basically, they averaged 175k airing on two channels. Airing on two channels at the same time. That's not good. The two True TV exclusive games on January 5th averaged 32,000 viewers.
However, the same media is now suggesting that Unrivaled may already be teetering on the verge of failure or irrelevance. A change in tone that ought to draw attention right away.
Nobody's watching it. Nobody's talking about it. I don't understand what's going on. It seems as though a lot of this conflict of interest stuff is coming out more and more, with the co-founders of Unrivaled also being on the board of the WNBPA, not getting a deal done. That benefiting Unrivaled, all of these things, but Breanna Stewart had to address the opening week ratings for Unrivaled as they were down more than...
This is not the well-known media that automatically defends any women's basketball endeavor, regardless of the outcome. Additionally, it is not the version that focuses on enhancing subpar products and portraying them as cultural landmarks. Rather, it is something distinct and, to be honest, unprecedented. Because, for once, the media seems to be reporting the truth, and the narrative is in line with visible reality. A year earlier, the messaging was very different, with persistent assertions that Unrivaled was ready to dominate the sports world and feverish discussion about ratings that had broken the illusion. And what has been evident for a long time, namely, the painfully low level of interest in women's basketball, is now being discreetly conceded. A declaration that may sound harsh, but only because it clearly contradicts a story that was never based in fact in the first place.
Unrivaled ratings are in to begin season 2, and they're not great. To be honest, it should have been kind of expected. This is the second season. You're probably going to peak at the first time you come out, which last year I believe they were in the 300s, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to pull up the numbers in just a second. The Athletics' Ben Pickman put them out. Saw people talking about the key demo rating as well. That was like kind of some misinformation from folks that don't know how ratings.
This issue is much more complicated than just ratings, because the product itself and the society surrounding it are the larger problems, even though decreased viewership is simple to measure. The sheer number of unlikable personalities that dominate the league's public face is one of the most obvious and least discussed factors, because women's basketball struggles are not just about empty seats or disappointing numbers, but also about a lack of connection with audiences that has never really been addressed. Women's basketball, especially the WNBA, has become overrun with an attitude of entitlement that intentionally turns away potential fans rather than drawing them in, fostering an atmosphere where criticism is written off as hostility and responsibility is viewed as oppressive, during a period when becoming an MTV personality could offer a comfortable and successful career path. Missy made her entertainment debut with The Real World, Back to New York on the network. This was followed by several seasons of the challenge.
Stewart. This is on Sports Illustrated. Brianna Stewart addresses disappointing Unrivaled viewership numbers. Now, before we even get to the article, I'm a little confused on how did you not see this? How did you not see this coming? Nobody was talking about Unrivaled prior to the Unrivaled season starting. All the talk was about the WNBA CBA. I feel like the promotion for Unrivaled this year wasn't what it was.
Despite that chance, his true dream was always to become a WWE superstar. Thus, it went much beyond reality TV. A choice that, because of music to his background, instantly put him at the bottom of the wrestling hierarchy. When he joined the WWE as the reality TV guy, he encountered constant doubt, mockery, and plain animosity from both fans and other wrestlers who thought he hadn't earned his spot. This disrespect showed up in dehumanizing ways, such as being barred from the locker area and made to change clothes in a utility closet with cleaning supplies, all while being told, music, over and over again, that success in wrestling would never happen, and that his MTV history, not his work, would always define him. The way the mistreatment was handled in this case is more important than the mistreatment itself, because Manon never publicly voiced his complaints, demanded preferential treatment, or claimed that his previous notoriety entitled him to additional screen time. Not because he was given anything. The work was indisputable and the respect was earned over time, not because audiences were coerced into supporting it or because management was under duress.
I don't know how you spin that any other way but disappointing. I think Unrivaled Season 2 has a lot working against it. Obviously, I think it has even less star power than it did last year. A lot of this has fallen on Paige Becker's back, and Paige Becker's has never been any kind of ratings dynamo or anything, and they gave her the primetime slot against last year's champions. I checked out, I want to say, the afternoon session. I was watching it, and I saw
That reality contrasts sharply with the dominant mindset in women's basketball, where players frequently seem unwilling to put up with the unglamorous process of building an audience, while simultaneously demanding outcomes that usually follow sustained success rather than precede it, and where the expectation of reward frequently precedes the effort required to justify it. The idea that monetary compensation, media attention, and cultural significance ought to come naturally has been ingrained. However, entitlement has never fostered loyalty or respect in any industry, particularly entertainment, because viewers ultimately determine what works and what doesn't, regardless of how vigorously something is advertised. Front Office Sports claims that the second season of Unrivaled has been characterized by dropping ratings that are so low that they hardly register by contemporary broadcast standards. 2 games on True TV on January 5th drew an average of about 32,000 viewers, a number that, under any situation, would be concerning for any nationally televised sports product.
This is embarrassing. I can't imagine what Monday's going to look like. 113 and 89,000. Wow, that's literally more than half of the viewers just straight up stop watching Unrivaled. And I try to tell you guys, I saw some videos, some dum-dum actually tagged me like, look, you're a hater. See, it's successful. Bro, that is bad. That is all.
With 4 true TV broadcasts averaging 71,000 viewers and TNT games hanging around 139,000 viewers, subsequent games barely slightly improved. This figure is still a huge reduction from the league's first season and from an already disappointing prior week. The current season's performance feels more like a collapse than a dip when compared to Unrivaled's first season, which averaged about 221,000 viewers across TNT broadcasts, with opening night pulling over 300,000 and the one-on-one tournament final topping 377,000. The opening weekend in the vicinity of Miami was very similar to the atmosphere on the ground, coupled with a quiet fan fest at a facility that, despite recent renovations, required TNT investment to add capacity and prepare for what was said to be tremendous demand. However, the outcome has been an arena that feels vast rather than thrilling, underscoring the discrepancy between expectations and real customer interest.
It's not looking good for Unrivaled, and I'm not laughing, I'm not cheering for its demise, but it's looking bad. So Front Office Sports is a media company that's usually the biggest glazer to WNBA players besides Caitlin Clark. They'll glaze Nafisa Collier, glaze Breonna Stewart, and do all this leakage of CBAs. I'm thinking that the WNBA, PA, and Front Office got some connection because they always say things that favors the player side.
According to Front Office Sports, there have been empty seats throughout the entire season, a concerning indication for a league that finds it difficult to fill a space smaller than most high school gyms, especially considering that almost any fresh event could easily sell 1,000 tickets. League defenders frequently cite player absences or injury as justifications. However, previous seasons with well-known names failed to significantly alter attendance or viewership figures, and the notion of missing stars only has weight if those stars were ever able to generate substantial interest in the first place. Prominent athletes like Jewel Lloyd and Sabrina Ionescu chose not to compete in the second season, but others like Angel Reed did without having a discernible effect, and some players have publicly admitted that the 3-on-3 style doesn't help with long-term growth. That agreement has a 3-year opt-out clause and involves Warner Bros. Discovery, the parent business, which is currently dealing with financial difficulties. As a result, ongoing investment is dependent on definite growth indicators rather than optimistic forecasts.
Dropped from 313 down to 89,000. That is alarming ratings. See, social media versus reality are two different things. In reality, people aren't watching. Social media is a bunch of people who just yap. All they do is talk. And remember the old saying, talk is cheap.
A straightforward but unsettling fact is at the heart of the problem. There is still little sustained interest in women's basketball. A fact that, regardless of how forcefully the narrative is controlled, is supported by decades of league history, seasonal attendance trends, and broadcast data. The WNBA has been around for almost 30 years. College basketball for women has been much longer. However, both find it difficult to garner notice outside of isolated instances, especially in months when there is little media interest and public participation almost disappears. Unrivaled entered an already oversaturated industry in the event that significant change did not happen quickly, filling a perceived void that in reality never existed. The most likely result is a calculated retreat by TNT following the upcoming season. Financial math is unaffected by motives, narratives, or emotions, not as a declaration of ideology or an act of animosity, and whether or not it is acknowledged, reality eventually makes its presence known. When the larger sports environment is considered, it becomes even more difficult to deny this truth because successful leagues don't always need to justify their existence. Additionally, they don't rely on press releases, well-chosen talking points, or sympathetic coverage to persuade viewers that the music they are listening to is important.
The sports leaked out this information that TNT may cancel. They didn't say directly But through the article, it looks like they're going to cancel Unrivaled because of the ratings. The ratings are really bad. You can look it up yourself. The last game only generated 110,000. That's pretty bad. That's not really good at all. That's why you need to listen to your
Popular sports naturally create demand because of their intense competition, well-known players, and moments that cut through cultural clutter without needing to be justified or explained. Unrivaled, on the other hand, is always in a condition of explanation, with a qualification attached to every unsatisfactory metric. Every poor performance is reframed as growth, and every criticism is written off as ignorance or malice rather than being considered as insightful criticism. In the short term, that stance could boost egos, but it doesn't create a long-lasting audience, especially when casual viewers feel more like they're being lectured than amused. This is where the problem of entitlement arises that resurfaces, because leagues that develop naturally often encourage hunger and humility. On the other hand, artificially supported leagues frequently foster societies that conflate success with opportunity. When campaigners, businessmen, and athletes act as if achievement is due rather than earned, audiences instinctively dislike being taught what they should value, not out of malice.
About the WNBA, the best of the best women players. This is not some random women. This is not slam ball. This is real women who won gold medals, that won championships in college and the WNBA, and they're so-called all-stars, and they're getting low ratings. And did you know that the Indiana Fever, by average, their rating was 1.18 million viewers per game?
The irony is that there is already a template for growth in many entertainment industries, including men's sports, where niche products have grown by emphasizing quality, accountability, and incremental audience building rather than demanding instant universal appeal. Competence leads to respect, not the other way around, and consistent delivery, rather than marketing claims, is what generates long-term interest. Therefore, Unrivaled's long-term survival will depend on its capacity to move from narrative control to substance, from defensive posturing to real self-evaluation, and from entitlement-driven expectations to audience-centered thinking. That entails facing difficult realities regarding market size, star power, format appeal, and cultural relevance without resorting to justifications or placing the responsibility elsewhere. If that change doesn't come, the league runs the risk of becoming just another cautionary story, remembered more for what it anticipated would happen than for what it accomplished, because it wanted it strongly enough. Ambitious endeavors throughout history have mistaken attention for interest and publicity for demand, only to realize too late that neither translates into sustainability. Although there is still time to change direction, social media is getting smaller. Ideological framework or rhetoric. However, every successful league has faced the most basic and harsh test in entertainment. If enough people care enough to watch, attend, and invest without being told they should. And it is the benchmark that will ultimately decide whether Unrivaled is a long-lasting institution or a short-lived experiment that overstated its position in the